What we're seeing in Virginia really is just one example of school districts that are gripped literally with LGBTQ ideology. Well, with me now to talk about this is FRC's Senior Fellow for Education Studies, Meg Kilgannon, who served at the U.S. Department of Education in the Trump administration. Meg, always great to see you. Thanks for joining me this afternoon.
Thanks for having me back, Jody. It's really great to see you.
Well, listen, before we talk about California, New Jersey, and wherever else we want to talk about, I'm sure you just heard what we're just talking about in Fairfax County. Anything else you'd like to add about that?
Well, I'll just say that when I, as a mom of four with kids in public school, found out that my school board was going to start, letting boys in the girls' bathroom and letting children identify as the opposite sex, under this, fever dream that is gender identity. I started going to school board meetings. I'd never been before, and I started to go, and I was expecting a lot of people from Washington, D.C. to be there because this is a bedroom community of the nation's capital where I live. And I didn't find many Washington, D.C. groups, but who I did find there was the Family Foundation from Richmond, Virginia, coming to defend the rights of Virginia's parents. And I'll be forever grateful to them for providing resources to us and for understanding that this was a real problem when some national groups were still not really getting it. We're the people who are on they talk about leading economic indicators, and family groups deal with leading cultural indicators. And it's issues like this that happen at the local level that are sometimes happening there before they really get to Washington, D.C. And
absolutely,
I'm a huge fan of theirs. So I really appreciate the work that they do.
Yeah, we are too, Victoria. They're all just doing a great job. All right, let's go from Virginia all the way to the other side of the country, California. We have another school district over there that is now considering a policy of requiring its schools to notify parents or guardians that their child is transgender. Give us the latest on what's happening there.
Right. Well, you had Chino Valley, and we spoke to the school board member from Chino Valley that led that fight to get the right for parents to be notified if their child starts identifying as the opposite sex in school. Then Morita Valley followed suit, and now Orange County is considering the same. So this is spreading across the state. The idea that parents should know what's happening to their children in school is, I think, a pretty basic value that probably is an 80% issue in the United States, right? And so this is wonderful to see. It's great that it's continuing. And one of the great things about the guidelines in Virginia is that they define a transgender student as a student whose parent says they are transgender. And now, while you and I, of course, would disagree with that whole concept, the fact is that children are coming into public schools presenting themselves there thinking that they are the other sex, and the school does have to deal with that. So the Virginia policy really puts the parents in the center of things and says that the school can't do anything for the child unless the parent is going along with this from the very beginning. So the cow is already out of the barn, though. In California, they just are wanting the parent to be notified if the child is being encouraged to do this in school, right? If the child is presenting this way in school. So it is really a backward situation in California and so many other states who have these kind of policies that are to affirm gender identity. And that's a really important difference.
It is, and you just wonder why the effort to keep parents uninformed about major issues happening with their children. It just makes no sense. So we go from Virginia to California. What I'm trying to illustrate here to our viewers and listeners is this type of thing is happening everywhere. And for people to think that somehow this is not coming to their state or their region, it's already probably there, just not yet making national attention. But New Jersey, for example, the administration of Governor Phil Murphy there is suing 3 different school districts that want to keep parents informed. So, I mean, here again, the government attacking the right of parents to be informed. Your thoughts on this?
Well, I mean, and so we could have a similar situation in Virginia. Ironically, if the Attorney General of Virginia decides that he's going to make sure that these policies are enforced in Virginia, we would have a similar situation where an attorney general would be suing a school board, but it would be Fairfax County School Board who's not enforcing a policy, right? I mean, I just can't help but think, Jody, that we are going to end up in front of the Supreme Court pretty quickly here when you have these kinds of tensions playing out all over the country. And I think it's also fair to say that when we passed civil rights laws in the 60s, no one at that time envisioned the kind of scope of application of civil rights that we're seeing now across the country that are including these, paraphilic sexual rights that are being attributed, they're being given the same status as traditional civil rights law. So this is going to come to a head. And it's really weighs on me that it's the children who are caught in the crossfire in the meanwhile. They're being led into these beliefs and encouraged in these beliefs that are just impossible to achieve. It's the very work of childhood to form your identity, right? Every child is questioning who they are and what they're going to be when they grow up, who they're going to be. And we know that, God has a plan for each and every person. You're unique and unrepeatable, and He has a plan for your life, and it's our work to discover that plan. So this effort to confuse children is just so very, very disturbing, and we really need to get it resolved as quickly as possible.
Absolutely, because these are decisions that alter the entire trajectory of these children's lives. We have terrible examples, as you've mentioned, that are taking place all across the country. But you and I know, as believers, we know God is in control. God is our anchor. He is there. And we need to remember right now, as these children are going back to school, many parents, grandparents really have no idea what their children are going to face as they go back into the classrooms. And so here we are, not only parents and grandparents and so forth, but members of the FRC community, members of the body of Christ at large. This is a time we need to be praying for these children and their families as they're returning to school. So if you can close us out here in the next couple of minutes, Meg, just perhaps some of the resources that we have, but more broadly, how can we be praying for these children and their families as this new school year begins?
Well, one of the things that the activists say on the other side of this issue is that the school cannot keep secrets from you as a parent if you're engaged with your child. And on the face of things, that's true. But we all know as parents, everybody's been in a family, right? We know it's complicated. It's messy. God puts us there for a reason, right? So we can have that support and discover ourselves and do it in a loving environment. But those environments aren't perfect. And so while every parent loves their child, every child has a bad day, and so does a parent. So we need to pray for families. We need to pray for people who are put in families together, that they will make the best of that situation. Because when you are in a loving family and you're the product of a loving family, it's like a superpower. So it's a supernatural power, right? And so
30
we need to make sure
Meg.
that that's the case.
30
so
seconds.
We need to pray
Give
for
us some
families.
resources.
We need to consider running for school board. And if you're considering running for school board, you can go to frc.org/schools and find our school board boot camp. In your state, there's a family policy council. There'll be resources for you probably on the state websites too. And you can find all those links on our website.
Outstanding. Meg Kilgannon, always great to have you. I don't know of anyone who has a better grip on the educational issue happening in our country than you. Thanks for joining us this evening.
Thank you, Jody.